What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Check this out. This is the brand new Foxeer Bind and Fly 7-inch Aurora 7. You don't have to build this one. Recently, actually months ago, one of my peers reviewed this very quad, but with his own components. He built it himself. But now Foxeer has one that you can buy and fly, so that's pretty cool. Today we're going to use the full send Liang battery on here, and I'm going to put my GoPro on the front. I'm going to show you a little bit of GoPro footage, and I'm going to show you what's also on here, the 03 footage. So most importantly, on a 7-inch, one of the hardest things about getting a 7-inch dialed in is probably the PID tune. So as you get larger, it becomes harder to PID tune something because there's just more vibration from more prop and surface area and larger motors. So there becomes more vibration to the frame and the flight controller. So I'm going to test out the stock PIDs on here today. We're going to show you what's being recorded down to the internal 20 gigabyte storage on the 03. And I'll show you a little bit of GoPro footage just for fun, but it's freezing cold outside in the 30s today. And I'm going to see how long it takes to warm up this GPS, because if you're new to flying GPS or long range in general, you need to let your GPS sit for about 10 to 12 minutes to kind of acclimate to the cold outside. So that's kind of important that you let it acclimate. And then when you have a nice, strong home point position lock, then it's time to take off. Inside Betaflight, make sure that when you're setting up your GPS too, guys, that you don't set it to arm without home lock, because what happens then, well, you don't actually get returned to home. So it says that in the details, and the small fine print on inside Betaflight will tell you that the return to home is not going to work. So you're kind of disabling your return to home. So don't do that. So when you're setting that up, you can go for a tutorial. Look for Oscar Liang's Betaflight setup for GPS. Very, very, very nice. So in this review, stay tuned, because I'm going to show you some differences between this one and the Chimera 7. Some good stuff, some bad stuff as always, and some honest opinion and some advice on flying long range. If you're thinking about buying your first long range quad, now with DJI 03. So I'm super excited about this. Let's go ahead and take it out to the beautiful Vineyards and fly the Aura 7 from Foxeer. Here we go, boys. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do a flight test and a camera compare. I'm going to show you the differences between the GoPro and the onboard DJI 03 internal storage for 4K video. So right now we're shooting 4K on both cameras, and this is uploaded in 4K, so you can watch this on your full screen in high HD resolution. So this is the 03 right here, and you know, the more I fly the 03, the more I like it. The resolution, the definition seems to be a little bit better on the GoPro, and I'm going to show you the differences here into the sun setting. The GoPro has a little more richness, and it seems like it has a built-in ND filter, whereas the 03 seems to be a little bit brighter, but it does have better color saturation. It really, honestly, it depends on what you're looking for. But right now, we're also here to talk about the Aurora 7. So check this footage out right here with the DJI 03 and this beautiful, gorgeous house being built right here. It's a total cruiser, and the best fun thing about 7-inch, if you've never flown it before, it feels so stable in the air. You can point this aircraft where you want it to go, and it will kind of slowly go there. You can increase the camera tilt and go faster, but I really like the way that 7-inch flies with about 20 degrees of tilt. It just seems to be a nice, pleasant experience. It's almost similar to like flying a glider, if you've ever flown a glider with FPV. Very slow, very predictable, but also you have the safeguard of having the GPS return to home on there. So if I get too low out in this field right here, and there's something between me and my TBS Crossfire, if Crossfire does fail, and 99% of the time I've never had it fail on me, I'm not sure if I'd ever actually fail-safed a TBS Crossfire. But then again, I don't really fly far enough away to make it fail-safe. However, the solid object will make this fail-safe, and the best thing about it is that the GPS will take over and it will auto-level the quad. And sometimes you'll see this in long range. When you're flying down a canyon or a river, you'll see the quad like tilt. It'll auto tilt to level, and then all of a sudden go back to your acro feeling flying. that's the GPS kicking in after you lose signal from your receiver. So that's a really cool and safe way to fly any type of range flying. And now here again, I'm just giving you more instances of what it looks like GoPro versus O3. Now let's take it up the mountain here a little bit and let me show you what the GoPro looks like with all of its definition there. The blues look pretty true. The O3 has a nice green on the trees, a little lighter sky, but you can still see cloud definition, which is good. So if this camera was any more blown out in the sky, as far as the O3 goes, I wouldn't like it. But you can tune this inside your video editor to look a little better. You can darken it, bring down the black point, and you can color adjust. So you can really come home with some pretty nice footage with the O3. So I'm just loving the O3, especially in these winter months. Now this is we're gonna see how this plays out coming up in the summer months, and this hot 4K DVR sitting on top of a VTX, that's yet to be determined. But for now, it's flying great, and the Aurora 7 really is fun to fly as a cruiser. And you know, I can test this out as a freestyle quad for you guys, do some crazy 7-inch freestyle, but there's not a lot of people freestyling these quads because they just fly so good, flying in straight, beautiful cinematic lines. You'll come home with some amazing footage. All right, guys, welcome back from that beautiful flight test. Today was the perfect day to go out. Beautiful sunshine. And what I really wanted you to see in that flight test was the O3 and the tune on board. I did not fly in the Rocksteady setup, so it's non-stabilized footage, and I feel like it did pretty good with the stock setting. The RS7 comes ready to fly and also bind and fly. I don't know how much the ready to fly one's going to cost you, but I do know that it also comes in 4 different video flavors. So you can get the analog setup for around $419. You can get a CADX Vista on there. You can also get HD0, which is super cool now. And you can get the DJI O3 one here that I have. This one is around $589 bind and fly, which is expensive, but it's still cheaper than the Chimera 7 if you're looking to get a long range 7-inch. And on their website on foxeer.com, they show it as a they actually have a graphic that says freestyle. This is a dead cat version of a 7-inch, but even with this dead cat setup, I could still see some props in view in my goggles too. So they seem to be a little bit close to how wide this camera is. So it needs to be a little straighter arm dead cat, I believe. They're just bent forward just a tiny bit like this, and you can see that they're going to come into view a little bit there. So this frame style kind of defeats the purpose with this type of field of view on the O3. So just to let you guys know about that. However, if you're going to run a GoPro on top, you're not going to see any props in view, obviously. And today we ran the full send Liang battery, and it fits right in the middle like this, 2 straps. The straps are big enough even to run like a 5000 series pack. You can run a 4000 milliamp 6S LiPo, but if you want to get the longest flight time, I recommend these. These are the full send LR 4000 milliamp packs from iFlight. These do pretty well. And today I had my individual cell voltage on the screen in the OSD, and man, I was flying forever. I got like around a 7 to 8 minute flight, but I came in early just because I was pretty much happy with all of the lines and the shots that I got today with this. I have to say the O3, it works great. Penetration is amazing. The distance that you can get with the O3 is really nice. One thing about my Aura 7 is that when it came in, the only drawback about mine, and we're going to talk about some pros and cons in this review, this antenna is the original stock antenna. It's not the 2 posted antennas like the Chimera has on there. They have long range antennas. This one has the original shorty, but it does have 2 antennas inside this capsule right here. So mine came actually loose and was falling off and bending around. So it came off this pole. It was jammed all the way down inside here, and this is pretty much impossible to get back on this. So no matter how much force I put on this with my fingers, even using a pair of needle nose pliers, I could not get this cap back on this post. post. Maybe I could maybe slightly heat up the post, but I really don't want to do that with these wires going up through there. So I just had to stuff some hot glue up inside there and then jam it on there and hope that it stayed, because if this comes off, it might get chewed up by the props. And you know, the other thing is too, this doesn't have a super long, tall antenna on here like a lot of the iFlight quads do. But honestly, I mean, to be quite honest, you're not going to outfly this antenna. Honestly, if you go out of range with this, you're way out there. And at that point, you might want to consider turning around and coming back, because the range on the DJI O3 is quite far, and I'm not going to range test it on my channel. People keep asking me, oh, you should range test that. No, that's not what this channel's for. This channel's for proximity flying and testing. If you want to go see some crazy long range stuff, look up Russian long range FPV. These guys fly out 100 miles out. So the props that I'm testing out today too are not the props that came with it. Dowel props, you know, these dowel props are folding props, and while it's nice, it makes it more portable that they're foldable, the arms don't fold. So having folding props on this quad, honestly, for a long range setup, is not what I would recommend. When you're introducing more moving parts into something that could possibly fail miles out there, you want to eliminate all your variables that could possibly cause problems. And what could possibly cause problems, when I went to put those on here, I noticed one thing that I didn't like in the design of these props. What I do like is the metal caps. These are metal caps that come along with them. What I don't like is the fact that each of them have to have these tiny, tiny little Phillips head screws that go down inside these mounts for each prop. Now, if one of these little screws falls off, or a couple of them do, the rest of it may wiggle loose. It's not super likely, but you're going to have to use some Blue Loctite on these in this setup. And honestly, I didn't want to take the time to do that, and I didn't want to take the risk of these coming apart mid-flight. Now, these may never come apart, but it's not traditional for me, and honestly, I don't trust it. They look cool, but yeah, I'm going to recommend that you guys go with also a bi-blade prop. You know, honestly, you're going to get the best flight time with a bi-blade prop. These are more efficient than running tri-blades on a 7-inch. Most guys that fly long range with 7-inch, they use a bi-blade prop. It's going to be a little faster in the air too. But if you want a freestyle, they do call this one a freestyle quad. You can use the tri-blade props. Go ahead and use the tri-blade if you're going to freestyle a 7-inch. But most of you guys, I don't see why you would freestyle a 7-inch quad, or even call it a 7-inch quad, because it's really meant to be a cruiser. Now in the front, we have my O3 here. It's got some nice TPU bumper in the front there for frontal crashes. The camera does stick out a little bit, which kind of slightly worries me, but you don't see any of the quad frame in the video, so that's good. I have plenty of space inside here in the frame as well, and a super long truck body. I call the truck body here. It's this long section here. You can get a 5,000 to 6,000 milliamp pack on here if you wanted to. It's crazy. One thing I'm going to recommend that you guys do also is put a zip tie on this battery cable right here. Coming out the side, it may get close to your propeller here. There's not a lot of room there. And guys will probably be asking me if this quad will accept a 7.5 inch. With this clearance right here to the back of the quad, I'm gonna say no. You can get 7.5 inch on the Chimera 7 Pro. So that frame is actually larger and wider than the RS7. Now in the back here, I have my Shorty 03 antenna back here with GPS as well. And this is kind of a hard mount. It's not on an axis that can be folded down or up. This is kind of just straight the way it is. I have my Immortal T under here, and we have a bottom plate. It does only accept 30 by 30 flight controllers as well. And they do have, like most of the iFlight quads, they have the wires covered up. And the power system on here, this is a great motor. I've been testing all different sizes of the Datura series from Foxeer. This is a 2806.5. 1350 kV. And you know, at first when I got these, I was thinking, well, These are higher KV than what's on the Chimera 7 Pro V2. Those were, I think they were 1250 KV, just a little higher KV, but this is not necessarily like up in the range of like 1650 to 1750 freestyle 7-inch motor. So I feel like these did actually pretty well on the Liang pack, and they didn't stress it out. I didn't see a huge dip in my battery voltage. So I was watching my individual battery cell voltage like a hawk when I'm flying. When I first take off, sometimes if a battery is going to sag out on you because of a kind of a powerful motor system, you're going to see it when you first take off, and then you know not to fly miles out if your battery is going to tank on you. Foxeer has put their brand new V4 F722 flight controller on this 7-inch bind and fly, as well as the 65 amp F4 Reaper ESCs. And I'm just going to open these up real quick to show you kind of the quality. Looks nice on these. There's already some conformal coating on here as well. It looks super glossy, and everything's easy to read. The silkscreen is really nice on here. You've got your harness that goes up to your flight controller from here, VBAT back here, and everything's clearly labeled. If you hold this, get this a little closer for you to see, you can see M1 there, M2, M3, and M4. And the flight controller itself is also clearly labeled. So there's not even a schematic in here. There's some extra kind of rubber standoffs that go in here. And looking at the flight controller itself, it is an HD ready flight controller. So it has a harness that can go off to your DJI O3 or your Caddx Vista. We have our boot button here, USB-C there for Betaflight. And this one comes with extra tabs on here for GPS. So you can see right there, SCL and SDA. Those are your signal tabs for your GPS setup. And by the way, the GPS on here is BN220 on there. That's a Bitan BN220. So I was able to get about 12 satellites today on my first takeoff. Now, one thing that is not on either the RS7 or iFlight's Chimera Pro V2 is an external beeper. If you're going to fly long range, guys, you got to have an external beeper on this bind and fly. You can get these pretty cheap for around $12 to $13. What this will allow your quad to do is if it goes down and the damn battery flies off of it, this will beep for about 2 days. It has its own little LiPo on there, and it charges once it plugs, once you have power to your battery and the flight controller is powered up. So this powers straight from 5 volt on any flight controller, and then you have some kind of safeguard. Now, some other advice, guys. Let's talk about some of the elephants in the room with this quad. I'm not a fan of folding props. I'm just not. I'm going to be totally honest with you there. Get yourself some bi-blade props. These 2-blade props are going to give you better battery performance. They're not going to hog as much of the amp draw out of your ESCs and motors. So if you're using a tri-blade prop on a 7-inch, you're grabbing more air, so it's going to deplete the battery faster. And the whole point of a 7-inch is you want the longest flight time. You want to find the lowest amount of throttle just to keep the nose up in heading. So and for longest flight time right now, I'm using the 6S 4000 milliamp Liang packs from iFlight. These work totally great. So I'll put the link down below for these as well. One of the other things like that I noticed about this quad was that my O3 unit in the very back, number one, does not have any type of heat sink on here. I really wished that it had a metal extra CNC heat sink. Maybe Foxeer could maybe make one in the future, or you could maybe nab one from iFlight and put it in here if you can get it from their parts on their website. I would highly recommend that you somehow make a heatsink under here, even if you have to steal one from an RC car or something like that. In the summer coming up too, we might even need like a fan above these O3 units. We just don't know yet how these are going to perform in super hot temperatures. You know, regular VTX without 4K DVR is getting hot, and sometimes you have a brownout or blackout with those. So one other thing is that this is not screwed down back here. It is floating in between these two pieces of TPU. So I was actually able to kind of move this back here a little bit. You can see it just moving. So yeah, I don't know if that's, I don't think that's a problem just because this TPU is so dense and so thick. I don't think that's going to be a problem, but I just wanted you to know that this baby is just held in by the TPU back here. There is no sidewalls over it or anything like that. And with the Chimera 7, it's completely covered up by a sidewall, and it's mounted over top of a heatsink. So that's the big difference there that you need to know about this one and something like the Chimera 7 Pro V2. Up front, everything looked good. Flight controller looks decent. I like the frame itself. I love these motors. I think the Datura series are freaking awesome. On any of the size quads that I've flown, these motors are great. And I have to say, even in the cold today, that they're efficient. They surprised me. 1350 after flying 1250, I was thinking, well, this is going to suck a little more juice. And they do call this one a freestyle quad, and I'm thinking that this is going to be a Liang killer. And I'm happy to say that it flies fine with a Liang on there. Just put the right props. It's all about props with quads, choosing the right prop for that particular quad. It's like the most important thing. One of the other things I would like to see on this quad is that it had dual antennas coming off the back. If you look on Foxeer's website, they do show some dual antennas coming off the air unit version. So if you want to get the older original DJI camera with the 1080p DVR one, that one does have long range style antennas on it. So I think Foxeer should have done that, but honestly, you guys are probably not going to outfly with how much battery you have, the range of the O3. So I'm not going to range test this one on my channel, but I hope you enjoyed this review today and some honest feedback on this 7-inch from Foxeer. And I think if you're looking for a nice flying, smooth flying 7-inch, it is cheaper than the Chimera 7 V2. This one is definitely a good option, and it's just nice to look at. Don't you love a 7-inch? Man, I do. But I'm Justin Davis, guys. Take care. Come back for more honest reviews and flight tests right here on the Drone Camps channel, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.